Hello.
Hello.
We are back. For our halftime listeners, you're listening to
Queer to the T,
the number one
Queer Sound.
Still barely T.
Still L.
Still L.
And we are still here with Blush.
Hello.
And for our listeners, our radio listeners, we are recording. So our video listeners don't be like, what? What's happening? What's going on? We're doing a twofer. That's right. Because Blush, the CEO, founder, Maveness of blushandbrushes.com, is here to show us all of her expertise. So tell the world who you are.
My name is Blush, and I'm actually a makeup artist and an esthetician. So
Big word.
right. One of the things I do with my business, my tagline is that we are pretty faces and beautiful souls. I think it's important to realize that as people, we have two parts to who we are. You have to develop who you are internally, mind your character. But let's be honest, our faces, our external parts are very important to us too. And I think we are kind of flawed in our outlook if we don't recognize that there are two parts to who we are.
Yeah.
So
We're actors.
Hello.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do today actually is just one of the many skincare treatments that I offer. And this is going to be a very mild chemical peel, very mild chemical peel.
Guinea pig Hillary.
Yes, we have committed to not killing Hillary.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
you
do.
know, her mother's not going to come looking for me.
No,
But
she will.
essentially, we're going to do a very mild chemical peel. The purpose of a chemical peel actually can be multifaceted depending on what's going on with your skin. And essentially, it also, the type of chemical peel you do has a lot to do with your skin type as well as what your objectives are. So today it's going to be a very mild one. We're going to do a glycolic peel. And there are different types. There are
What does
about,
that mean?
actually it's an alpha hydroxy acid. And essentially what it
Bigger word for the bigger word.
is actually a fruit acid.
Oh,
Most of your
okay.
chemical peels are derivatives of some sort of fruit.
okay.
For instance, I think mandelic is actually from, I believe, almonds or walnuts. So,
I had Mandingo.
you know what? That's a different kind of acid. And didn't we just talk about the pandas in these?
Yes,
we got the wrong kind of acid. But one of the things we want to think about is that when you look at these products that we put on the face, what they do two things. They're designed to soften and loosen the skin on the surface. And what happens, it helps not only with acne, but sometimes with people who have ingrowns. Because some of the theory behind ingrown hairs and acne is the same.
Okay.
Okay.
What happens with acne, what causes acne, you get three things. You get oil, bacteria, and a clogged pore.
Yeah.
And so what happens was under the skin can't get out and it turns into a zit or a rising of some sort. Well, you kind of have something similar with an ingrown hair. You have something that's in the skin that can't get out.
Oh.
What a chemical peel does, it loosens what's on the surface of the skin so that the hair that's trying to grow through can actually come through the skin, because what happens, a chemical peel actually breaks down that top layer of skin to either loosen it depending on the type of peel and the strength of peel you get, or on the other hand, it can be strong enough depending on what you get to essentially remove that skin and cause it to shed. And by taking that off, what happens, the hair can actually come through. The same thing is true with acne. By loosening that top layer of skin, what happens is you allow the bacteria and the oil that's in the pore to come out more easily without you having to pop it and leaving dark marks everywhere. Same kind of philosophy. This what's stuck in the face needs to be released, and you want to do that in a manner that doesn't require you to do a whole lot of pressing and pushing on the face, because what it does is it creates hyperpigmentation. When you're talking about skin of color, whenever it perceives that it has been damaged, it responds with dark marks. It's a part of the body's defense mechanism, actually. So essentially, when you have pimples, with all due respect, I see a couple of home surgeries
sure you
around
do.
here.
Home surgery?
Yes, home surgeries. Now, what
Guilty as
chemical peels
charged.
do, they help on one hand with acne and as well as with ingrown hairs if that's an issue. But if you get them consistently, and if you have a healthy skincare routine that you maintain at home, it will help to actually lighten these over time.
Okay.
Because what happens when you take the skin off the top, or when you loosen it so that it naturally slops off, what happens, your body produces new skin, and that new skin tends to be less flawed.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a real kind of broad overview of what chemical peels actually do. They take that top layer of skin off, and depending on what your skincare issues and challenges are, that determines how quickly you want to do it. For instance, I was looking at her skin earlier. She said her skin typically tends to get sweaty but not very oily. You can look at her skin and tell, because her pores are not that large, that she's more toward the drier side of things. Typically, you can tell when somebody's skin is very, very oily if their pores are very pronounced. The larger your pores and the more diffused they are across your face, that's generally a function of having lots of oil. Think of your face as kind of having had an oil baby if you have really large pores, because what happens, the oil can't get out. So it pushes the pores open to get out. And so, yeah, and that's
I
exactly.
have an oily face.
Me does.
And by the way, those products that claim to shrink pores, they lie. They just want your money.
I thought so.
They don't really work. Now, what you can do, there are primers and things you can do that will help to make your skin smoother so that makeup adheres better. But there is nothing on the market, at least nothing that I'm aware of. And I also work, in addition to what I do with blush and brushes, with a very prominent dermatologist in the city. And between the two of us, trust me, if we could figure out how to get rid of your pores, we would be making a killing in this. Trust me. So with that being said, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start with her peel. What the first thing we're gonna do is just gonna cleanse her skin. And this is a basic cleanser.
You got a lot going on over here.
Well, you know what? I do this because I also go on site when I do chemical peels. I make house calls because I realize not everybody has time to come into the office.
Right.
So essentially what I do, I make house calls.
Look at
And I
have
bring
life.
everything with me. I bring everything with me. The only thing I need from you if I come to your house to do a chemical peel is water.
Okay.
I would bring my own water, but that's just.
This is too much. You should have
We
one.
ain't got no fancy
We
one.
ain't got one. So that's good to know that you are mobile. So if someone, can pretty much hire you out to come over.
Yeah, my business is based in Haddonfield, New Jersey. And for the most part, anywhere within 15 to 20 miles is very easy to get to and doesn't generate an additional travel cost. However, beyond 15 miles, then you may or may not get into travel fees for that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's actually kind of cool. So what we're doing, we're cleansing the face. The reason we're cleansing the face is that though she doesn't get extremely oily, just throughout the course of the day, unless she had a skin issue like eczema, everybody as a function of being human will have a little bit of oil on the skin. So you want to take that off because if the skin is very oily, it compromises the effectiveness of the peel.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I just hear the words chemical and peel, and my body goes, no!
Don't be scared. Don't be
have to be
scared.
I'm not scared. I feel great.
I
That cleanser smells lovely.
It
I
smells
know.
delicious. It's heavenly.
love it. Hillary has these bursts of dill. This moment. It smells divine.
So yeah, so essentially what we're gonna do, we're gonna cleanse, we're gonna get most of this off, and then we're just gonna go through it. And what happens? This is I call it a quick peel.
A quick peel.
There are some peels that you get that require some downtime.
Okay.
This peel will not.
Okay.
If in fact if she were going for something stronger in terms of outcomes, what we're doing here is aiming for brighter, healthier skin. We would go with a different kind of peel, but for our purposes today, we're going with something very, very light because we're not aiming.
She got bright skin. She got that fresh from Africa skin.
I'm trying to tell you.
Jealous. TS is officially jealous. You heard it here first.
You're jealous.
I am. I'm jealous.
That's from the last one.
Uh-oh, she gotta close the eyes. It's getting
Okay.
serious.
I put
Let's
these
get
in.
serious.
Even though I trust myself as an esthetician not to get this in her eye, just in case y'all make me nervous.
You've
What
been
could you
on
got?
all of our programs now, so
Well,
now
you
you're
really
nervous.
don't, but it's just, my insurance company might be watching this.
Fair enough.
Like, you put an acid on somebody's face. Yes, chemical peels are acids, people.
See, chemical acids. So are you using any fruit in these?
Actually, they come already pre-made.
Yes.
So, essentially, what we're going to do, a little bit of a peel prep first. Gotcha.
So our listeners, what she's doing is unscrewing a lot of bottle caps right now.
Screw bottle cap. If the thing is
Ooh,
beautiful. There we go.
Magic.
that was the sound of a bottle opener.
You know my USB drive is actually a bottle opener. My flash drive?
Ah,
Yeah, I found it at some store and I thought it was kind of cool.
fanciful.
So essentially,
She's now painting the face.
yeah, we're just going to apply. We use a brush which is called a fan brush. This actually doesn't smell all that great. The first layer, in addition to cleansing the skin, is a peel prep. It has a little bit of alcohol in it because what
This is Scotia.
what it's trying to do is make sure that if she has a lot of oil on the surface that we get it off. We'll make sure you do that. If you want, I gave her a fan, and what I give people the fan for sometimes is that some people are really aggravated by the fumes, and what it does, the fan blows the fumes out of their face so they don't have to smell it the whole time.
Well, let's consider
She's
that.
painting her like a painting.
So this has alcohol in it, but what is it overall again? I might have missed that.
Largely glycolic acid. This is a prep right right here. The prep solution helps to dissolve any oil that I somehow missed when I cleanse her skin.
Okay.
And so then the second step will actually be the peel.
Yeah, I'm smelling it a little bit now. It's
Yeah.
not too bad. I like chemicals though. Weird.
Yeah, I mean, I love markers and
Were
gas.
you one of those glue sniffing kids?
No,
I ate paste.
you can't prove that.
You know what's weird? I ate Vaseline when I was a kid.
I don't know how I feel about the Vaseline. I don't. But the gasoline is really cool. The smell of gasoline is really
It's
awesome.
I don't
jelly.
want to comment on the smell of gasoline. That sounds a little twisted.
No, it actually, there's something in it that just smells so delightful.
Gotcha.
That's interesting.
And then she
Now,
said,
before we started, I asked Hillary a few things about her skin.
I saw you were like asking her everything except for her social security number
Well,
and
yeah,
her butt size.
I wanted to ask her some questions off air first, because there are a few sensitive topics relative to getting chemical peels.
Oh, okay.
And since we've already talked about this, we can talk about this on air.
Mhm.
If you get cold sores,
Mhm.
you want to make sure you take your medicine if you have to take medicine, starting about 3 days before you get a peel,
Okay.
because what a chemical peel will do is irritate the skin, perhaps in a way that can cause you to have an outbreak.
Oh dear. Oh.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure if you take medicine, there's no shame in it. I believe somewhere I read 70% of the population gets cold sores.
Mhm.
So essentially you want to make, or at least have the virus in their system.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you take that into consideration, because I would hate for you to come in for something that's going to make you look wonderfully radiant and then 3 days later your face is breaking.
Y'all hear that, koala pandas?
So make sure you take that into account. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to start,
Ooh, she got the time clock. It's about to get serious.
and this is a 30% glycolic peel, and we're going to apply it to the face. You
Are
might
you-
feel some tingling, and that's normal. You can take the fan. I tell people the fan is designed to cool the skin if they feel like they're tingling, itchy, burning a little bit.
She's got a tough face.
But it's actually my way of distracting them.
You just let them know.
works. Once this is on, can I keep talking or should I?
You can keep
still-
talking. but
Okay.
Yeah.
The main thing is that you can't open your eyes.
I
No,
will
that
not
would
do
be
so.
scary.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Now you mentioned earlier before when we were in Hot Topics
Mhm.
about something about the snatching of the hair, and you had answers and questions.
Oh yeah, with
for
the
that.
braids.
What's that
right?
about?
They
What
use it
happens when you get your hair braided or any sort of style that actually pulls on your hair, particularly things that you wear like weaves and braids that go along the same pattern if you wear them repetitively, you can create what's called traction alopecia. Essentially, the hair follicle will die under that kind of pressure. And one of the things I see with a lot of women of color, what happens, and I see them in the doctor's office all the time, is that they get the weaves, and therefore you get the cornrows first, the really tight sew-in on top of that, and you get these hairstyles that on one hand are very, very beautiful, but they pull your hair really, really hard at the hairline. And not only is it at the hairline, but it's actually through the hair, because your body wasn't intended, your scalp wasn't intended to take that kind of intense prolonged pulling and tugging. When it's really, really tight, particularly if you see that you get bumps around your edges, the likelihood that you are going to lose some hair permanently goes up.
Yeah, I
And
used
so-
to get those bumps like right around the joint.
And what people don't realize is that with alopecia, there is a really good chance that their hair isn't coming back. You can get injections at the scalp. There are steroidal creams that you can apply to it. But once the hair falls out, there
It's kind
is
of
a
done
really
deal,
good
yeah.
not always, but a really good chance. I'll put it to you this way. If I were the physician, and sometimes as I'm, in the office, one of the things we talk about is making sure people have realistic expectations. Because the other part of it is the longer that the hair has been missing, the more likely it is it's not going to come back. So for that person who lost their hair 5 years ago and they decided finally they want to talk about it, the longer you wait, the less likely is that hair is coming back.
I think you can see that like in a lot of older, like
Mhm.
elderly,
yeah.
black women, especially like who've
Pardon me for
done.
a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most uncomfortable, how would you describe how you feel?
I say I'm at a 3.
About a 3.
Oh,
That's good. And she's had this on for a little bit over 2 minutes.
Mhm.
And about 4 and a half, we're going to prepare to start removing. So,
Ooh,
I'm excited.
I'm excited for
so
that.
what we do, for the most part with the glycolic peel, what you have, this isn't going to give her a dramatic result right away.
Mhm.
What she'll notice over the next couple days when she washes her face, her washcloth is going to look extra dirty. And she's going to be like, what the? Yeah, that's the peel. You're not dirty. You didn't run into like some stuff coming out of a tailpipe of a bus. It's what happens, the skin is coming off.
So does that mean her face is coming off?
No. This is when I said this was
Okay.
when I said this was a quick peel,
Mhm.
this is a peel designed not to give you downtime.
Ah.
Some peels, like I have one peel that I do, which is a modified Jesner's peel.
Mhm.
you kind of need about 3 or 4 days to hang out. This would have been perfect for the 4th of July weekend.
Mm.
Because when people look at you, they go, Lord Jesus, this is fire. But this pill isn't designed to do this. I must do that. I'm assuming she has a life. We didn't talk about whether or not she was okay with downtime ahead of time, so I wouldn't do that to her. So for the most part, but there are different kinds of pills that do different things. And because her skin sometimes teeters on dry, particularly if this were the winter, I would even go with an even gentler peel that has a little bit less stuff, because what we want to do is make sure while peels naturally will dry you a little bit in the first few days, we want to make sure that we don't want to create an uncomfortable situation for people.
Right.
Gotcha.
Like, wow. You feeling good over there, Hill?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You still about a 3?
Still about a 3.
Not intensifying?
No, well, a little bit.
Okay.
So you had 3 1/4.
3 1/4. Yeah, that sounds about right.
3 1/4.
She looks very peaceful though right now.
Yeah, well, I'm getting pampered. How can I be peaceful? She has gentle hands. They're very soothing.
Oh,
Thank
isn't that? She's like, she has gentle hands.
You know, when I was going to skincare school, my pet peeve was people whose touch was so gentle, they seemed uncertain. Have you ever had a massage with somebody and like they're massaging you and it's like, you act like you are afraid to touch me.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Mhm.
And so that's my thing. I want to touch her, I want a steady touch, but by the same token,
I don't want you to like.
yeah. Now what I'm doing now,
Yes, you are pumping things out.
neutralizing them.
Ah,
Neutralize.
With the glycolic peel, it has to be neutralized.
the big words.
What?
Because if you don't neutralize it, it keeps acting.
Oh, so it's kind of like noodles. You know, you got like when you boil the noodles and then you put them in the cold water to stop the
Keep
cooking,
your eyes
and then you
closed
put the
for-
warm water on
Keep
top.
your eyes closed.
Alton,
Y'all acting like y'all don't
no,
y'all
no,
don't
no.
cook.
Alton Brown would say like, yeah, like if you blanch vegetables, for instance, you like quick boil them and then like you dunk them in ice water to stop the cooking
Yeah.
process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the
Except
same
with
thing.
chemicals.
Well, that smells different.
It is. It's a neutralizer. Think of it. I don't remember if anybody ever did their own relaxer back in the day.
I've always been too afraid.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds serious.
Yep.
I can always do the front. Me in the back never really
Girl,
fared too well.
you think that was something. A couple years ago, I decided to put a texturizer in my hair. When I say big bucket of fail,
Oh no.
what happened? My curl pattern in the top of my head is very loose, and the curl pattern on the sides and in the back is very tight. I look like that dude from the movie The Fighting Temptations when he got kicked out the car at the end when he was high. It was real nappy on the sides and real straight in the front. I was like, wow, for about a month, I wore a wig so my hair was long enough so I could completely cut it off. Because the straight part was so straight that I would have had to like go completely like clean shaven. Oh my God, talk about quintessential failure.
Oh man.
Quintessential failure. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Yeah.
You didn't have to use the
tingling
fan.
anywhere?
A little around my nose.
That's normal.
Okay.
All right.
Your nose is tingling.
Tingle my nose.
You telling lies. You telling lies with your tingling nose.
And sometimes when I find that a person is just uncomfortable in one space, I'll take this Evian spray because the water tends to be cooler than what we had, and we'll just put it here. Sometimes people tend to get a little discomfort in the sides of their noses because what happens when you lay down, the way the face works or the way the anatomy is, sometimes product might pull right in there. So it just kind of soothes them just a little.
And she is quick with them fingers on things. She's like,
It's like surgery. Clamp.
I'm laughing at Kenya because she's over in the corner like squeezing her nostrils together. Like,
How you feeling?
Oh, this is good. Yeah, your nose feels better.
oh no, I feel great. This feels
Close your
ecstatic.
mouth for me. Make sure you close your mouth. Just gonna make sure we do your all over.
And what is the spray again?
Just basically really cold water.
Oh.
In a can? You know what technology has come so far.
The future is now.
Flying
so
cars.
much stuff.
For the most part, just really cold water. Because for the most
Hillary's falling into the pretty and shiny category.
I done fell into that category.
Like even her tone of voice has changed. Now everything's good. So
you know, one of the cool things too, like when you do treatments for people, if you can give a setting, create a setting when you go to their house that they like. It's like when you leave. Like if you look here, just from the chemical peel alone, you can see the skin is loosening.
yeah.
And like the pads are just kind of dirty.
Wow.
And notice we washed her face twice before we started. We used
Right.
and what it's doing is loosens the skin.
It's finding dirt.
So it
Like-
basically, and it makes you look dirty, but it's not dirt. It's already starting to loosen that top layer of
Wow.
skin. So then what I do from here, I prepare her to leave. She got stuff to do.
For her to get to going.
I take this spatula. This is a little under eye cream.
Under
Ooh, under eye cream.
Little under eye cream.
Okay.
And I'm gonna actually take,
Uh-oh, she's been moving the gloves, folks.
just come right in under here. You want to use your ring finger because it's more gentle. Even if you're in a hurry, use your ring finger because what happens over time, over the corners, there's nothing we can do to prevent crow's feet.
Yeah, doesn't that kind of just happen? People always trying to be like, oh, I don't want the crow's feet, but like that's gonna happen, right?
If you live long enough, you will get them. Crow's feet essentially is a function of just age and wear. The only thing that you can do to slow it down, frankly, is to keep the skin adequately moisturized.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the things that you want to do when you look at under eye creams, go for an under eye cream on one hand because what it is, the way it's put together is lighter than regular face lotion, so it's easier for the skin under your eye to absorb that.
Right.
So that's one of the things you want to do. The other thing when you get a peel, in addition to that, you want to make sure they leave you with a sunscreen. Now, what I'm going to do in her sunscreen, I'm going to put just a wee bit of a retinoid, which is a product that will kind of continue to drive the product deeper into the skin before I do the sunscreen. I'm going to do this really right in this area, simply because she has some dark marks here.
Ah.
And if you notice with regard to her skin tone, and this is common to black women, if you look, her face is a little bit darker along the periphery of her face and a little bit lighter in here.
Right.
That's very, very normal for black women. So it's not that anything.
It's because like the sun can't reach it.
Part of it is sun exposure. Part of it is that I think a lot of times we don't use sunscreen pretty consistently.
It's just true.
And so part of it just comes from that. The other part is we get older, sometimes we tend to get dark patches of color right in there, and that's due to hormonal shifts. I have a little too much cream on there. And this is a sunscreen. So essentially we're gonna make sure she's sunscreen. And one of the things you wanna do when you do the sunscreen, even if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's
You
cold,
still put sunscreen on?
you always do sunscreen.
Oh, right, because the sun is kind of always.
It's
Yeah.
not the heat. It's sunlight in and of itself, and that's what gives us daylight. So you want to think of it that way. You always want to do sunscreen, no matter what the weather is. You always want to protect. Now here's the other thing: because she's gotten a peel, even if she wasn't normally into wearing sunscreen, for the next 2 weeks at a minimum, you want to do that because essentially it'll make you more sun sensitive and much more easily irritated, particularly if you get a sunburn.
Ooh.
So you certainly want to make sure you wear your sunscreen. And in terms of sunscreens, the thing that I tell women, particularly women of color, to look for is two things. On one hand, you want to have a sunscreen that you actually that you like. Because what I tend to find, if you don't like a skincare product, I don't care how many times I tell you to wear it, you're not going to wear it. And the problem
True.
with women at a certain hue, it's hard to find sunscreens that don't turn your skin like that white, ashy, chalky looking color.
Yeah, like ghost.
Yes.
Really.
And so there are a couple that I particularly like, particularly because your skin is a little bit on the drier side. I don't know if you have a particular product that you use, but one of the things that I find is that Aveeno is a pretty good product. It's budget
It's
conscious,
good.
budget friendly,
Okay.
Yeah.
and it already has SPF in it.
Okay.
And what I like about it, when you put it on, it will not make you look like that chalk water, black, gray color.
It'll blend.
It blends in with your skin. I think it's a fantastic product. Then there are some other products, if your skin tends to be oily, that I would recommend you do. One of the things that I tend to do, I like the Kiehl's Superfluid, and I mix that with Neutrogena's oil-free moisturizer, because what happens, the Kiehl's Superfluid, if you add too much, it will make you look white. On the flip side, the Neutrogena's oil-free moisturizer, it breaks down that white and it also gives you a little bit of moisture. Because even if your skin is oily, you need a little bit of moisture, because otherwise your body freaks out and thinks that you're not producing moisture properly, and it makes more moisture. And welcome to zit heaven. So what happens, I usually will tell people to get a little bit of the Kiehl's Superfluid with the Neutrogena's oil-free moisturizer, mix the two together, and you got your same thing.
Okay.
But the Kiehl's doesn't add a lot of oil to the skin.
Gotcha.
So essentially, she has a pretty quick peel here, and this is what we typically refer to as our lunchtime peel. It's designed for her to be able to go back to work and go to her life and not have to worry about her face falling off in 2 or 3 days.
Right.
As much as I like those peels, I actually prefer those, however. But what you gotta bear in mind, not everybody does what I do for a living. When I walk around with my face peeling off, people are like, oh, that's how it's supposed to work. And it's also a kind of twisted marketing tool. But for the rest of the world, who's normal, you can't go around like that.
No.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Like, what's wrong with you?
It's like, well, I got this little procedure now.
But no, so how do you feel? How did you feel about the process? Was it uncomfortable at all?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous about the chemicals on my face, but no, it was very relaxing. But I was not prepared to be this relaxed at the end of it. I really don't want to open my eyes and get up. And like my face does feel fresh.
Ah.
Now, when you said before, when I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how you felt, you said about a 3. Describe what that felt like.
It's like a little bit of tingling, pricky, sort of like just on the precipice of burning,
Yes.
but
Gotcha.
not burning.
Precipice.
Yes.
Gotcha. Because one of the things, some people describe it as a tingling kind of feeling,
Mhm.
and some people say it's like an itch that's uncomfortable.
Mm.
So you don't know whether you're going to be an itcher or a tingler till we get you on the table.
Table.
There's no way to predict which person you're going to be.
Mhm.
Weirdly, I find men tend to be more squeamish about it than women.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the guys come in, you're like, really, dude? You seem to be really, big burly guy. It's like, you seem like you might want to cry first. What's wrong? Because a lot of men get them done for the hair bumps and the
Yeah.
ingrown hairs. That's primarily what most of the men come in for. Now, I will say about maybe 10 to 15% of the men who I deal with, they have really bad acne. And I find that the peel that I said that peels very aggressively and it peels in sheets, I find that a lot of men like that peel. Even though for about 3 or 4 days, frankly, it's really unattractive. I find that my clients that have pretty moderate acne, the guys in particular like it. The women will deal with it, but the guys like the fact that because that peel is a little bit more aggressive, that they feel like they don't have to have so many products they have as a part of their regular routine. Though I recommend that they have a regular routine,
Right.
they feel like, well, this will kind of get me over the hump and I can go 4 to 6 weeks before my skin gets bad. And what I try to get them to say, well, if you use something, you could probably
won't
get
get
a couple of months and it wouldn't get bad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
They ain't hearing all that. They ain't hearing all that.
But yeah, so different kinds of peels give you different things. But for the most part, what I like about the peels is essentially I think they give people an option to have either my services as a makeup artist or skincare person. Because I don't like the whole idea as a makeup artist that we seem to make people feel like they must fit in one box.
Right.
I want you to feel beautiful with or without makeup. I like to think of Blush and Brushes as being a place where makeup is your primary option, but skincare is what you do. That's your thing.
Right.
And so I think about it that way. Because at the end of the day, we're all beautiful people and we have to figure out what makes us feel comfortable. Yeah, and I think that's really it. I like it.
Well, Hillary, you have to get up, hon,
No,
and open your eye.
I won't.
I don't think
You
she's
will.
going to.
Nope.
She got the whole break to
Almost
think
right.
about it. So we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna be right